What's up, people? Welcome to another episode of I Am Negan, a TWD Universe podcast. My name is Adam Vale. I'm a senior editor over at the Koalition.com, and I'm joined by editor in chief Richard Bailey Jr. What's up, Rich?
What's up, Adam? What's up, listeners and viewers?
And Throwdown shows on Carlos Romero.
Is it over?
Oh, it's getting there, people. It is getting there. So, thanks again, everybody, for tuning in and watching, whether on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. It always helps. So, thanks again for all of that. We're seeing a lot of traffic, a lot of interest, and understandably so, because this is it. Walking Dead Mothership is ending. This is it, people. This is the final 2 episodes. So, today, what we're about to discuss right now in this episode is season 11, episode 23, Family. This is the second to the last episode. So if you have not watched this episode, and it's a very good episode, at least in my opinion, we'll talk to the rest of the guys, but I think it's a good episode. Go to AMC Plus right now. You can watch it. If not, you can wait till next week when it airs. And then when it comes to the final episode, from what we understand, no early release for AMC Plus subscribers. It is going to be same day, same time, which will be on that Sunday at 9 Eastern, right? So that's it. That's where it comes from. That. So they're not going to release an early episode for that one, and that makes sense. You want to see how many people will tune in. You want everybody to be on the same page because, as you see, we're discussing an episode that, I mean, it's out, but it's just not out to the viewers of the channel, and so you can find stuff like, I'm hoping that the people that are listening or over on YouTube that are checking us out have already seen the episode and they want to hear some discussion about it and see their theories and our theories and see, just talk about the show. But if you haven't, then you're going to get spoiled. You're going to be spoiled to the show because we are going to break down this episode, what's going on with it and what's going on further for not only just this show, but how this impacts the Walking Dead universe because a lot changes and some are going to be pissed. Just going to say it. So I'm not going to be so happy where this is going. So again, this is for The Walking Dead season 11, episode 23, titled Family. So 3, 2, 1. Boop. All right. I'm going to say it myself. I called this that if they wanted to do something impactful, you had to do it to a character that people really cared about. Oh yeah, Aaron and Jerry, okay, whatever. They're sub characters, but the main characters would be Carol, Daryl, Maggie, Negan, Judith. Okay, RJ, not so much. I think the little boys only said like some gurgles and maybe a few words. That's it. Doesn't matter. But and out of all of those, everyone, the 4 there, they all have their own shows, their spinoffs. We know nothing's happening to them. But Judith, she's a wild card. So I was like, if anything happens, it's got to be the Judith. And sure enough, what happens? Poof, she takes a bullet.
Nope.
What?
I'm here to call shenanigans on this.
What?
You said impactful death. Not
she's going to die.
Exactly.
She's not going to die. And if you want to hear my theory, I can give you my theory right now. Check this out, guys. Judith got. We're gonna go right into it. Judith got shot trying to. She saved Maggie, right? That's why she got shot.
Daryl.
Well, who brings that kid to a gunfight? That was the most idiotic thing. I could not believe when that part came up, and she says, "Well, I want to go. I want to play my part." And then Carol's like, I was like, "Oh, this is where she's going to be the mother and the voice of wisdom on this." And I'm like, no. Well, that does make sense. Your brother did die to protect others. Like, what is wrong with you? You're supposed to put a spin on this and say, no, we know you're a badass. That's why you need to stay here to protect everyone else. Yep. We need someone in-house. You're going to go and invade the Commonwealth with trained military soldiers, and you're going to bring what? She's like 12? Come on now.
Here's my theory. How does this show start?
Where her narrating. Like
the
like
series.
All the other episodes.
The first episode of the
series. The series. Well, it was her dad shooting a little Walker kid.
And then he woke up from, I guess, a coma.
Yeah.
And then into the zombie apocalypse. They're gonna do the same thing with Judith. Judith's gonna wake up from like a coma or something. And it's gonna sort of do like a parallel between her and Rick. at the beginning of the episode, and I don't know how it's going to unfold from there, but that's what they're going to do. I don't know if Rick and Michonne are going to show up like the hobbits did at the end of the Lord of the Rings. Something's going to happen, and Judith's going to wake up from this, and it's going to be.
And then when I was thinking about people getting upset, I think those are the two things they're going to get upset. One, the fans of Judith that are upset that, oh, wait, why are you even going to even tease that she got shot and all that? And then two, I was like, really? No Rick, no Michonne in this episode? So it's really pushing that they have to show up in some form in the final episode. That's it. And I think people are upset because they were hoping that this whole other final third part of the final season, we were going to see them. And no, there are no shows.
Well, there's one thing that did. There's two things I will mention. This episode, I guess overall, I actually did enjoy it overall. So I do want to give it its credit, but I do have two nitpicks that I want to bring out real quick. Number one, not only was the first, the Judith fake out, everyone's gonna think, oh, is she die or not? She's not gonna die, and they did the same thing to Lydia. On another scene, it's like,
well, the Lydia situation is different because we've seen people survive from that. But if you recall, this whole thing with Daryl running with Judith, it's the same thing as when Rick was running with Carl got shot, and Carl didn't make it. So
here's my number two nitpick, and it might not even be a nitpick. It might be a bigger than a nitpick, because who's the person that shot Judith?
Was it
Pamela Milton?
I thought it was. She did reach. I wasn't sure if it was a soldier next to her.
No. Why the hell is Pamela Milton the one to take that shot?
Why is she even in combat? Come on.
Why is she in combat? Why is she there? That's the whole thing. They this goes back to what I've been saying the last couple of episodes. They failed to make her look like the villain quick enough for it to have payoffs. So she needs, it's like the last three episodes, she needs her villain scenes real quick. It's like,
I agree.
Kid. It's the last episode, the penultimate episode of the series.
You would think that if that's, because I agree with that, and you would think that if that's what's happening, is that they're writing these episodes as the weeks go on, and they say, wow, wait a minute, people aren't really seeing her as a threat. They're asking about someone else. What do we do? Oh, Milton, give her a gun, have her shoot Judith. There we go. Everyone will hate her. Mm-hmm. And that's what it feels like. But we know this was already filmed, weeks ago. So that's not the case. But yeah, it's such a slow buildup for her to be the villain. And here it is, you had the warden. Warden could have filled that spot, but no, let's not do that. Okay, there goes that. And then now we have this, I don't recall ever seeing her, but what's her name? Victor or whatever. She's the second in command or whatever to Mercer.
Yep.
And he's now calling for her, and it looks like she's the one that's betraying, and then even sort of her idea doesn't really make much sense because she starts questioning things, and we'll get into that with what happens later on. But just right off the bat, I mean, we had to start with this whole thing with Judith. So, all right, I'm on the side thinking that she will die, but her dad will be there, and Michonne will be by her side. They will do the same type of thing they did with Carl. And I think that's what we're going to see here, because everything just fits with that. Remember, she gave her hat to RJ, which was passed down from the dad to Carl to Judith, now to RJ. She gets shot. Yes, this is horrible, but she put herself in that situation. She felt that she was fighting for what was right in that whole thing. I definitely think that they're going to show up. They're going to say their goodbyes. It's going to be a sad story. And then this will really put the whole Milton thing over the top. It's going to come to a head.
Shenanigans.
But wait. Then I'll tell you the other reason why. The other reason why. She doesn't fit in these spinoffs. She doesn't fit. There's no place for her right now. So unless they go do your theory of putting her in a coma, basically saving that character for, hey, if we ever decide to revisit, we'll go back to her and we'll do that whole thing. But then still, she's a kid. They would have to do some kind of time jump. I don't see them ever coming back with a spinoff with Judith as a kid running around, Lord of the Fly style, trying to save people.
Yeah.
Well,
doesn't work.
I do have to mention this. You're saying she's gonna die and Rick and Michonne are gonna grieve over her in her deathbed essentially. This show, they don't deserve that.
They
This
do
show,
it though.
this show does not deserve having that moment because Rick and Michonne have been MIA for the last couple of seasons.
Exactly.
You can't have the emotional payoff. Rick has never even seen her.
Yes, and I would like to add in another point here. Since you brought up the dad thing, you did not mention, Adam, the fact that she called Daryl dad.
Yeah,
she thought that was her dad. So,
well, yeah. That's what I'm saying. There you go.
It feels like that was something that they wanted to have as some type of payoff, where she is referring to him now as a real father figure, but that's going to trigger some people. So I mean,
there's a bunch of things. A real kid at that age would feel abandoned, not just from the dad, because no one knows what happened. They presume he's dead, but the mom just skipping out and leaving like that. We get it. Actress had to go do other things. What else are you going to do? Right? You don't want to kill her off because there's that possibility she can return, but yeah, it leaves these kids of the characters in a limbo, and she was way too understanding of the whole thing. Well, she's off looking for my dad. That makes perfect sense. So now I have nobody here who wants to take care of me. I am a child, and then I also have a little brother. This is crazy. It's crazy. And then Carol wasn't really there because, as we saw when they entered the Commonwealth whole thing, who was the caretaker? It was Daryl. That was very random. I remember when that season started, I'm like, but why? Why?
Well,
that makes no sense, because even if, let's say, Carol, she does a bakery, she has other plans, and people are like, oh, you can always put it on Carol. Okay, well, what about Jerry and his wife and kids? There's other families that were part of that group that could easily take these kids in. I don't get it. It didn't make much sense. And then Daryl's working in as a trooper, and he's like, like the single dad with 2 kids, and he's like, oh, I'm trying to put food on the table. I gotta do this job. And like, come on, that was already too out there. All right, go ahead, Rich.
Well, let me just make a comment. I agree with the points that have been said so far, as far as the criticisms with this particular scene. I just want to say, I think it made sense that this would happen to Judith, because you recall that when Pamela's son, Sebastian, when he was getting bit by that walker, Judith is the one that shot the walker that was biting him. So I guess it made sense that Pamela had to take the shot. That's what they were trying to do with that, but I don't really know.
When she screamed, it was like, you did this. It was you. So
yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I agree. But I really don't know what their plan was going into this situation. They had a scene where there was a conversation happening between Mercer and Princess. So I thought they knew some intel as to how they were going to approach things when they got there. But then when they got there,
they had no plans. That's the sad part. Yeah, I assumed also that when Mercer at the end of the last one saying, all right, we're going to mess things up, do the whole thing, that he had a bigger plan. He did not. He did not have a bigger plan. This really seems, then it goes back to that it was just a spur of the moment, like, you know what, this is it. Because he sort of says he had a plan, but then it doesn't make sense, because in that following scene, after he told Eugene and Yukimo about, oh yeah, I had this plan, I thought it wasn't safe to mention it. Well, that's a lie, because when we see the next scene, when you're on the walkie-talkie talking to Princess, and you're like, all right, where are you guys? What's going on? It's like, wait, you don't have things planned out? You didn't work this out? She's on a train. They're headed back to the Commonwealth. What are you going to do there? Well, we're going to fight Milton. Well, how do you feel about it? He's like, yeah, okay, let's do that. And then he says which path to take to go toward some tunnel, access tunnel, whatever. And then it should be open. But then he sets himself up to fail for all of this when he starts throwing a little bit of that attitude when he's talking to Milton. When she starts asking questions, what's going on? How did this happen? And it's like, well, we had people missing all the time, and we don't even, throwing that little shade. Of course, now she's hearing it from your tone.
Yep.
Now she knows, and now she knows something's up. And that it's just not becoming of the character that we've seen this whole time, with the stern face, not showing emotion. And the one time he does is to throw himself under the bus and Princess.
Mm-hmm.
That didn't make any sense. It would have been better if he would have stuck in character, because he even said when he left at Eugene and when he was in, he said, "All right, now it's time to do the what was it, the charade, song and dance, or something like that. Now we have to play the roles." Because later on, he does an interrogation in front of other people. Remember of Yugumo? He starts talking and say, "Oh, what are you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, if I was part of the group, I'd already be with him. I wouldn't be here." And he's like, "All right, all right, all right. Well, I interrogated her. She's good. She has nothing to do with it." Mm-hmm. Then just keep that up going, and then they could have just said that we find out that Milton had a secret all along, and it was that right hand, that Victor character, or whatever her name is, but the woman, the soldier of the Commonwealth that is now working for. That could have been the mole the whole time. That's it. You don't have to have Mercer do this whole little thing because it backfires. And it sucks because it's so obvious. We see it. She saw it. It's like, oh, I knew instantly when that scene was taking place. Oh, this is gonna fall apart now. She's gonna know. She's this is it. She's gonna know. You screwed up. You screwed up, and now you ruined everything. The whole plan is messed up. So I was still surprised by that. What else did we get from this episode? We got a heart-to-heart conversation with Ezekiel and Negan, right? They get their bonding moment. Questions are answered. I think we all agreed on why Negan decided to just say it was him and not Ezekiel, is because he wants to be seen as a good guy finally. So I'll just take it. I don't want to be the bad guy forever. I don't want everybody. And he repeats that. Right? I don't want to be known as the guy for all the bad things I did that you're going to tell him, meaning Ezekiel. I wanted to do something right for my wife and my future child. This whole thing. And then Ezekiel comes out and talks about cancer. And how he had that and was dealing with it. So it was interesting. Let them get that moment. So what do you think? I guess you could say also part of this, Ezekiel is a wild card also because we don't know if he's related or linked to any of the spin-offs. So you guys think he's going to stick around for this? He's going to survive this final battle?
Well, Rich, I know what you're going to say. We did have some articles and stuff with the actor. So I would venture to say that he's one of the likely ones to not stick around. Ezekiel. Sometimes you're too good to stick around because like Ezekiel is like probably one of like the best characters like in terms of him just being a good human being. And he always has the death flags. He's trying to save the world. He's trying to build a community. So he's like I mentioned, he's at top of the power rankings when it comes to deaths in this show.
I think and we'll talk about this later, but obviously the preview of the next episode, he makes it clear that he is willing to do what he needs to do because he believes in the Commonwealth. So that's why I said I would not be surprised if he dives, if he protects himself or he sacrifices himself to save everybody in some way, shape, or form. Because I feel like he still wants to stay there, even though the Commonwealth is about to get torn to shreds with the walkers and everything else that's happening.
Exactly. There was a lot going on in all of these things. So, all right. So we already cleared up with the whole thing. One other part I guess we could bring up with Eugene, just to end his, because he only had a few scenes and it all took place in this little apartment, is that even though Mercer says, all right, stay here, don't leave, and he does, I guess they're doing door-to-door kick-ins or whatever to find him. And I'm like, yo, Mercy, you couldn't put him in a location that had nobody, like maybe like an abandoned building or something. No, you put him in an occupied building that they're going to be doing searches. And the guy starts banging on the door. He's like, if you don't open, I'm going to kick this door in. But we got to see another side of Eugene that we haven't seen in a long time. And sure enough, the guy kicks in the door. He comes in, looks around, and then Eugene attacks him and just beats on him. Beats on him. And I was like, okay, all right, this is good. But maybe this will spark something. But then in my mind, we don't see what happens after that. I'm like, oh, maybe he just drags his body out and then closes the door again, just leave him in the hallway. Because all we hear is the walkie. Oh, there you go. All right, now in my mind, that's what I'm thinking. Because he hears the walkie. He's like, hey, is everything okay? This and that with the check. This is whoever's the commanding officer for that trooper. What if he puts on the trooper's outfit? Because it's covering his face. He could easily put that out and just walk on out.
Well, if you saw, Rich, you're gonna see what I'm about to say.
Yeah, well, that did not happen. We saw later in this episode he did show up and knock out another trooper as they were escaping the building. This is after Judith got shot. So he is with the group. He's with the group in the shootout right now. That we can't.
That's weird. How did he? That doesn't make sense then. No, I didn't even realize he was there because that doesn't. That how did he even know about that location? Because
they needed to funnel. They needed to funnel all the good guys into the same spot in the same predicament. So they got Eugene. They got the two dudes from the two people from Oceanside. Everyone.
Yeah, they were showing quick shots of their face. Everybody was there in this big battle there. Well, almost everybody. And we'll get to the battle.
Yeah, I do have something to say when you get to that. A few of those, that whole scene with Lydia. I have.
Yeah,
that's my biggest issue of this episode.
And we'll get to that. We'll go into the.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so we'll get into the whole thing now with that. So as you recall, last time we had Jerry and Aaron, Elijah, aka Snake Eyes, and Lydia, along with the two other people that they picked from Oceanside, and they were walking with the Horde. All right, so they're like, all right, we're going to be safe walking with the Horde because you got the Commonwealth soldiers just driving around. Well, we now see that they're wrangling up the Horde to head over to the Commonwealth, right? And this is Milton's orders. So, again, this doesn't make sense, but it's like, according to the way they portray it from Milton's end, she does this intentionally so that way she can force the lockdowns. Right. And that brings the control because we got all the people in the street protesting, screaming at her office. They're upset because they still don't believe everything that she said during the trial. And of course, we know that the lottery was fixed and all that stuff. So she feels if she gets the Horde and says, hey, there's a Horde outside, there's a threat, everybody go home, it'll be fine. Well, we see that while the group is walking with them, they go into, what is it, like a little... What was that? I want to say it was an RV or something that they come across, but it's not. Was it just like a
Yeah, it was an RV.
Was it an RV?
Yeah,
like a trailer almost.
Like a trailer. Yeah, that's it. Like a trailer / RV. Yeah.
One of them was like, go over here. Let's get out of the Horde. Well, then that causes problems. As they're all getting in, the Horde is still pushing, and we see Elijah. And I think the other dude was with her, with Elijah, right? They all got pushed further. And Lydia was trying to hold on to him, but she couldn't. Her arm stretched out, and a walker just chomps on it. All right, so there goes that. She screams, and they're like, oh, wait, now we definitely have to pull you in. So they pull her in, and Aaron sees what the damage is. And he's like, well, look at me. I made it. You know what has to be done. And poof, they amputate the arm. The arm must go.
Yes.
So what? Yeah, go ahead.
I like to make a comment on this. Now, obviously, I know everyone will say this was an amazing episode. I've seen people commenting on this episode already saying that this is a fantastic season. They obviously must be watching a different show from us.
No. They're smoking a crack rock. There's not a lot that's been positive for this final season, which is a disappointment, especially this final 8. Come on now. This is the most impactful that we've seen for everybody. And that's what I was saying. One of the things, and then I don't want to drift on another show, but one of the things that I loved about Game of Thrones is because you had all these different groups all dealing with craziness. It wasn't like, oh, this one's just boring talk. No, everybody got some crazy action drama, something happening, right? And we didn't get much of that from House of the Dragons. It was all just singular, didn't have that. But same thing with this. Walking Dead, they always were separated, right? We've always had it. It was always separated and always saw other group going through hardships. It was always something. We didn't really see any of that till now. Now we have everybody going through some craziness. And it's fun because we're like, all right, how is that going to get out? How are they going to get out? How are they going to survive? How are they going to make it to point B? Go ahead.
Well, that's a great question. And I'm going to answer that. I'm going to answer what the problem is with that. But let me get to why I had an issue with this scene is because I believe it was the previous episode or the episode before this. This is when, Elijah and Lydia shared a kiss together. So you mean to tell me that kiss was so good that you were willing to risk your life trying to save him Just because like, oh, I need him. That was where I was like, this feels like this was a rushed.
Well, you got to go further back.
Relationship.
You got to go further back. I think it was actually, if it's not earlier that episode, it was the episode before that one when Carol noticed a glance between the two, and she knew instantly. This is when they were saying their goodbyes when they were going off. She knew something was going on. So I think that they already had something brewing. They just didn't get physical.
Well, yeah, because that was the whole point of her having that conversation with Aaron. When he was clearly Elijah wanted to kiss her and she denied that.
She backed off and the whole thing.
Then we saw later in the other episode, finally it happened. But what I'm saying is, again, that's a very quick turnaround for you to now all of a sudden, like, you are willing to risk your life saving this person that you just started to have something with. I think that's a little bit of a rush.
So you would have rathered if this was an established relationship that we already had seen pan out at least a season.
Well, I mean, this could have been happening at the start of the season or even at the midway point of the season. I just have a problem because this is the last 8 episodes. Now, all of a sudden, they have a relationship, and now all of a sudden she cares about something bad happening to him. And by the way, we didn't see him at the end of the episode. You saw the other 2 characters that we don't care about. They were the ones that met up with the group, but we did not see.
Don't worry, Snake Eyes is going to survive. He's going to survive. That dude, if there's anything, he's a survivor. We've learned that from the other ones. Well, he's perfectly fine. I'll predict that he'll put on a skin mask or whatever, and he'll come to save the day. Because right now they're trapped. They're trapped. All right, cool.
Here's where I come in. Why didn't he just they've been walking with the walkers for God knows how long? It's like, what? Just keep going with them. You should be fine.
Yeah. I didn't understand.
I've walked. I was a whisperer. I've been with these. I've been doing this for miles. A day. You're good. You can keep on walking. We'll find you, or you'll come back, or whatever. I don't understand why that for Lydia was supposed to be a life and death moment for Elijah, or it's like, oh, I need you. I'm like, well, you guys can see each other. Don't yell out stuff that'll trigger the walkers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Rich.
I don't know why they went there in the first place. They wanted to go back to the Commonwealth. Now they see the troopers, and their point is that they want to herd them all, I should say, to the Commonwealth. So then just keep going, keep walking with them.
I have a theory. This is the equivalent of you taking a road trip. We got to have a bathroom break. We got to take some type of break here. So that's what they saw that trailer. They said, hey, let's go here for a second and regroup. Yeah, that's what I thought they were trying to do.
And not only that, but the reason why they were even with the walkers is because there were the Commonwealth soldiers were surrounding them, so they had to blend into the environment.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's why I figured they would just go along, because they could hear what's going on and hear that, oh, wait a minute. They're not just trying to stir the horde away. They're actually pointing them toward the Commonwealth. So that's our goal. We're heading back anyway, right? So, all right, we'll just keep walking. But yeah, they take the break, whatever. But then even then, you would think the soldiers would hear all this and see that half of the horde just split off and start banging on the side of a structure. Like, all right, something's over there. Let's investigate. And maybe that will happen. I don't know, because we see all the walkers just banging on the sides of it. So it's not like, oh, they're safe in there, that the walkers are going to keep it. No, they know they're inside. They're banging. And this is why I think Snake Eyes is going to come up to save the day. He's going to come and he's going to get them out of this situation. Because she's crazy. She was like, oh, all right, come on, just handle it. I'm going to go out there. Really? You're going to go out there like this? I mean, you're still losing a lot of blood. You need to rest. So we'll see. But it's very questionable. It's up in the air how many of those members are going to make it out to the Commonwealth. I don't even know if they'll all make it to the Commonwealth.
So let me ask you both a question. And this is a question for the fans as well. So if any of these secondary characters die in the finale, will you care about that? Or are you going to still be moved and touched like, oh, that was my favorite character that just got killed?
I'm sure somebody out there will. I mean, most people will feel something for Jerry. because the actor, I remember he was on Talking Dead a while back, and he thought it was like a one and done type thing when he was doing everything with at the time with the Kingdom. And he was like, yeah, when everything fell apart, he thought that was it. His time was done. And they called him and said, no, people like you. You're coming back. You're coming back. We're going to bring you in. And then remember, he always popped up as the background. He didn't really do too much. And then they did those little one-off episodes. There was that Carol one, remember? And he was there. This is during right toward the start of the pandemic when they were having the whole separation and social distancing. So they couldn't have too many people on set. So they were doing these smaller episodes. And he was there. So it's good to see that he's playing a bigger part, but it's like, man, the 11th hour, man. Yeah, it's like, all right, whatever. But I think that for the fans of the shows, they fell in love with him. They like him. People like him. I think the same with Aaron. Lydia, Snake Eyes, it's like, all right. The other two jabronis that are out there, whatever. I mean, there's always going to be somebody who cares about someone in a show that has a bunch of members of a group. You find someone that you can relate to or whatever. But now people say, no, I don't think it's going to be too impactful. Go ahead.
Well, the other quick point that the last point that I will make for this particular topic is because of how the episode ends, there is no way in hell that they all can survive this. And this is why I was mad again that we knew about these spinoffs, because the final shot where you see Daryl, he's running off, separated from the group. It leaves it like up in the air, like, oh, is the group going to survive? Is everybody going to survive? And again, we already know that there's a couple of spinoffs that are in the works. So that's why I don't know why they announced this. They should not have announced it. But again, like I said, with that situation, there is no way in hell that everybody in that group is going to survive. There are going to have to be some people that get killed next week, because you have the soldiers, you have the walkers. There's a lot going on in that situation. So it's not possible. And I did see our boy, your favorite boy, Eugene, shooting and running towards both the walkers and the guards. So no way they're all going to survive that.
Fast camera cuts. And that's the thing. That's why I hate looking at these trailers, because then when you watch, you're like, oh, he's not even going in that direction at all. What the hell?
No. This was at the end of the episode. We did see Eugene running towards the group shooting. So that's...
I still don't understand how he found that location. None of that makes sense.
I do want to mention something. Yeah. That disappointed me. I'm disappointed that we didn't get a reaction from Negan when Judith got shot, because Negan, if you guys remember, was Judith was Negan's only friend for all those years when he was stuck in that cell.
Well, Carlos, you know why that is? Because they wanted to save Negan's reaction for when he saw them walkers climbing.
Oh, they did. You're right. I do not like how they toned down Negan, the character, overall. They have pretty much lowered him to just a regular survivor at this point. He should still have that.
Well, he
doesn't have character. He doesn't have the character. Where's the lean back Negan? Where's this snarky remarks Negan? That's gone. He could still keep that. Again, this is an old reference, but people that watch Lost, remember there was a character named Sawyer, right? And he called everybody different nickname. Hey, Freckles. He had the quick remarks and stuff. He was still sort of a prick, but then he was there to help as well. And that was the Negan character. And they just like lowered him down completely. Like, where is it? He's soft-spoken now, low-toned. It's a different person. He's not the same person. And I get it. You get to change, and you could get some of the harshness out of him, but he should still have that wittiness with him. Those one-liners, those comebacks could still be there, and just pointed toward Milton or the other ones, or even with when he was dealing with the warden. None of that. We're not getting any of this. It's like as if they decided not to get creative with any of his writing. That was one of the best things in the comic, was just reading Negan's lines, because he was always, he cursed a lot. You can't do that here, but he still came up with a lot of crazy one-liners that were awesome, and he could have done some of that here. This is comical stuff, just to make light. That's just how he dealt with things. Some people would say jokes when situations are rough, and he says that's all gone. That's all gone. That character is gone. I don't know who this Negan is, because this is right now. It's just a regular Joe. It's a shame too. It's a shame because he's such a great character, and I don't think we're going to get that. I think they've decided to be like, well, like in wrestling terms, you got the heel, you got the baby face, and then you got the ones in the gray zone. Right? And he was always like, he was a heel, he was in the gray zone, and now they're like pulling all the way baby face. And I think that's because of the spinoff that he's going to be in with Maggie. They're like, well, we have to have him as a good guy. We can't have him as the gray zone. That he could abandon her out there.
Well, also, and I want to go to Carlos next, but I'm just going to add it. But you also have to remember, Adam, he is a family man now as well. So they are changing him completely because of this.
Well, we already know. I think we're all agreeing on this one. That family ain't going to last. If he's going, we already know he's doing a spinoff. He is leaving. Something bad is going to happen. Whether they get the wife gets kidnapped with the unborn child, or she passes, something tragic has to happen to let him, or to point him in that direction to go with Maggie to the big city, right? Something. You don't leave your wife, and if she gives birth, you don't leave your wife and a newborn to go adventuring.
And Herschel is there as well, because
we saw, and we already know. Yeah, we know Herschel is there, and he's fine.
Well, go ahead, Carlos.
Are we gonna have to rename the show to "I Am Judith"?
Okay. No. We are Negan, because we have to keep that going. We have to keep it going for the fallen Negan. Remember, that was the whole thing. That for people that don't understand where the naming comes from, and I hope you do, if you're walking different from the beginning, but every member of the group said they were Negan. That was the whole thing. So it's like, who's Negan? I am Negan. I'm Negan. So you never really knew who was a real Negan. So there you go. Let him die. We'll continue on, because that Negan is gone. Think about it. It's gone. So it's sad. It's sad. Oh, man. But I mean, there was one other big part that was upsetting for this. I like this episode. I really did like this episode. There was a lot that happened. Even though I have issues with some of it, at least it's still stuff to discuss that were issues. Mercer, right at the end. I really hope this is still part of his plan, that he has some plan, because the fact that he gave, here it is, once he's there, he's staying there with his troops. They're getting ready, because now you got all these walkers showing up, and they're showing and emphasizing, hey, there's some climbing walkers here, because you got the one that's on the watchtower, and he sees one climbing, and he's like not paying attention. I don't get this part where one sneaks up behind him. Not only does he sneak up behind him, but bites him. He's wearing a full suit. That's the whole point of the suit.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because when I saw, because there was some clips of this video, that surfaced on YouTube. When I saw the clip in some of the comments, there was somebody who made a comment. Oh, so the walker is also smart enough to know how to take off a helmet and bite the person as well.
Yeah. Maybe it's not a walker. Maybe it's a whisperer who's just a maniac. He's just mentally nuts, and he's feral, and he's been with them so long that he thinks that he's one of them. And he's like, well, if I'm walking with them, I gotta act like them. Let me bite this guy. Wait, his helmet's too rough. Hold on, what kind of helmet is that? Hey, pull this off first. All right, now I'm gonna go for a chomp. And then so that made no sense. That made no sense at all. I mean, there's some things that are sort of comical with all that. Like even in the scene before that, when you see the two troopers in the Jeep, and they got the horde behind them, and you see like a guy climbing up and stuff. I'm like, all right, whatever. But they start telling Milton, hey, the horde is here, and there's too many. We're going to get overrun. And we have to cover all these areas. But before, I'm jumping ahead. I just looked at it. I'm jumping ahead. I forgot. I didn't go through the whole thing with Mercer. So, So when all this stuff is happening, Mercer's gathering his troops. And it's like, all right, we have to defend this wall. We got this and that. And then Victor shows up with her group and says, hey, no, you're done for treason. He went against Milton, the whole thing. This is where I thought, this is it. This is where the fight starts. This is where the divide within the soldiers, because the first thing when that happened, when Milton turns around, what does his soldiers do? They point the guns at Victor and the other ones. They didn't just say, oh, wait, Victor said, all right, man, point the gun at Mercer. No, they were going to stand by him. And I'm like, this is it. And we heard when he had told Eugen, when he said, what are you going to do? Back at the beginning of this episode, when he put Eugen in that little hideout spot, he said, I'm going to go and see what other soldiers I can get on my side with this. Well, you look like from this scene, you have a few that are willing to stand by you. And he's like, nah, put your guns down. All right, I'll go along with you. Let's go. Whatever. Just, you got to defend this wall. You got to defend the walkers are here and all. I'm like, what is this? Please tell me there's another plan. Please tell me that this is a setup, because this made no sense.
Well, yeah, it didn't make any sense. And then he had that comment about he was going to go after her legally, and that's why when they brought the prisoners, they can act as witnesses to.
Oh, he told that to Princess, and as soon as it sounded like she brushed it off, I brushed it off also. I'm like, no, we don't need some more law and order in The Walking Dead. I'm sorry, people, we don't need this. Save that for another spinoff straight to AMC Plus. Nobody's watching that. Okay, I'm not going that far. Oh man, I could not believe when he's like, yeah, we'll bring those people in and we'll use this against her. And I felt like she was gonna be like, shh, sorry, we'll bring it up. Shh, gotta go. Like, come on now. And then thankfully, right at that moment, that's when somebody came in and told them, hey, got some walkers, this horde coming. But then that same woman is in charge, Victor, who's now playing a major role in this show, she goes over to tell Milton things have really hit the fan, right? Doesn't bring up anything with Mercer, that she just did all this. But she says, hey, we got all the walkers, and they're climbing now, and it's overrun. They're already in. Because that's the other part that was comical with the guy in the watchtower. Right? I guess he has the button to open the gate, and he falls down, and he presses it. I think it would be better. Man, I wish I was writing. If they would just one episode, people, just one episode, that when the guy's chomping on his head, that he's pressing on his head and the head presses the button. That would have been funny to see that, as opposed to like, oh, my hand. Every episode, just like almost like South Park. Don't watch South Park, but I remember in the early days, they always killed Kenny. I don't know if that's still a thing. In every episode, they killed Kenny. I don't know if that's a thing anymore, but Walking Dead makes it a thing. There's always some crazy looking death. And we had one with the walker that got hit by the train. Remember, right toward the beginning, it's like he's walking. We always get one of those. But this would have been fun. This would have been a fun death, as it's chomping and he's like, and pressing his head against the button that opens up the gate. And then you see the horde just like flooding in. So Victor tells Milton, they're all coming in now, and what are we going to do? And I don't know why she was surprised by this. I'm really hoping. I got to look this up. I didn't write her name down. It's Victor, right? That's her name. That's probably her surname. But anyway,
the bad cop, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. What's her name?
It does start with a V, if I remember correctly, but it's definitely not Victor.
See, I thought maybe Victor was like the last name.
Something like that.
All right, so let's say V. We'll just say V.
Yeah, V.
So she was like, all right, so what's the plan? He's like, well, Milton says, well, you got the estate, which pretty much is the higher ups. You have to protect it. So all of the lower regions, you just gate them off. And I guess they already had these gates in place because we start seeing them being used. But basically just closing off all the gates from the main gate. So just like most what we know as the old school English kingdoms, you had the gate, you had a lot of the lower tier common people, and then you had the richer, and then of course as you go further in the back, the kingdom. And that's how they had this structure. So she instructs her to tell the rest of the soldiers to start putting up the gates. And there's no time obviously to say evacuate, because remember, she was telling them all to go home. So if they're going home, and a lot of them are from downtown, they're all stuck downtown, near the front. So V says, hey, if we do this, a lot of people are going to die. And so, well, we got to think about the estate. It's all about the higher ups. It's all about them. That's pretty much it. And she seems shocked by this. Like, really? Why are you shocked? Why are you shocked? Did you not just see this whole court case, all the shenanigans that took place? You clearly made your choice by standing with Milton over, the other dude. So Mercer. So you've already made that decision to go with the higher up, the current structure of things. So I don't know why they show a zoom in shot of her face, like all shocked. I'm like, what? No, don't be shocked. This is it. This is how it works. You chose a side. You chose the side of the politicians and the higher ups because that's what she said. You're going to be with us. You're going to protect us. Just guard us. Forget about everybody else. Just close the gates. Let them die. All right. There you go. And then what happens? That's it. This character who just came out of the blue is now running the show. And this is hot shotting of these characters. We saw it with the warden. We're seeing with this. We had all these episodes where it was just filler dialogue between characters, just talking about life and things. They could have sprinkled the build up to all of this. For the longest time, Mercer's right hand was Rosita, right? He was calling her for everything. He never called V over here and said, "Oh, I need your help. Put your suit on," or this and this. We don't see her in any major roles.
What you don't understand, Adam, about the show is whenever you need a villain or a contrarian type character, they'll just pull him out of a hat. You need a series ending villain. You'll get one at the end of the penultimate episode when she shoots at everyone's favorite little character in Judith. You need stuff here. You need stuff there. They'll pull it out of a hat whenever they need to instead of establishing all of these characters. And I do agree. One of the things that's unfortunate about all this is that we had no clue. It's like Mercer is saying, "Oh, I'm going to gather all the people that that I can that are on our side," and I'm like, it would be cool if we knew some of those people, including the V character, and we would have known. It's like maybe it's like, is she like, what type of person is she? Does does it make any sense why she's telling on Mercer? What's their their relationship as coworkers and stuff? We don't know any of that. So we, some of that suspense is kind of suspended in random thought because we don't know what any of these relationships are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this has a problem of not building up these characters, and with Fear the Walking Dead, too much happens off camera. We remember, Rich, they would talk about all this stuff that never even had on camera. Oh, we had this fight, we had this and this, and like, really? We didn't see any of that. Do a montage. Oh, there is no montage. Yeah, we have to use our imaginations. Close our eyes, watch this show with imagination. Oh, I'm thinking about it. Oh, that was amazing. Right, Morgan? That was awesome. No, and then that's a shame because they had so many episodes. This is filler. We're asking for dialogue. We're not asking for, oh, well, we don't have the budget. Oh, because of social distancing, we couldn't have the characters. Oh, no. This could have been done through dialogue. Just start name dropping, throwing the names. If Mercer always said, all right, I'm going to get V on it. All right, V's covering the North Gate, whatever. And then we finally see her. We're putting a face to the name, right? Then it's like, oh, okay, we get it. There's got to be someone of importance. Exactly. He's always talking about her, always on the walkie. Well, this is the person he's talking to. And this whole time she's in cahoots with Milton. Holy moly.
See, I agree. And to go with your theory of what you said with the name dropping, this episode heavily talked about Carl, talked about Michonne, and talked about Rick. So you have to see Michonne and Rick in the next episode. I mean, you have to. That's what I would think.
Funny? Judith talked a lot about them. They kept bringing them up.
Yep.
Daryl didn't care. Daryl never talked about you're going to see them again. He never said any of that stuff. He just he just stays quiet. It's like, whatever. It's done. Stop bringing up the past.
Well, he did give her the Ned Stark to Jon Snow talk. It's like, in Game of Thrones, for those that watched it, it's like when Jon Snow asks about his mother, Ned Stark's like, when we get back, I'll tell you more about your mother. And Daryl kind of did that to Judith when they were on the train. We know that Daryl ain't dying, so we're probably
we're probably everybody out there. I'll tell you all the stories that you want to hear when this is all over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So who maybe he won't even get to tell her because he's gonna go to Paris.
Yep.
There we go. He's going on a Euro trip. Oh man. So let's see what else happened there. I think that's pretty much it. So where do we stand now? Mercer is in custody. Princess and friends are on the run from that shootout. They are running to who knows where, because that was the other last scene. Is that as we see the group, everyone's together at this point. You see our Negan and Maggie and Daryl. And Daryl's in the front with the holding Judith running through the streets, and they see that the soldiers are around and they're trying to avoid them, but not realizing that wait, they're not chasing after them. They're doing something else. Oh, they're closing the gates, so they're locking them in. And every time they turn down another street, they'll see the gate, and then they look back and they see now all the walkers that are just flooding in. So they're like, oh, they're locking us in here with these walkers. So
Vega,
that's her name?
Yeah.
Okay, Vega. See? All right. Now I could have remembered that one. But the way he said it, I don't know. It just sounded like Victor, I guess. I was thinking he was referring as like a surname. No, you know.
The episode in the meantime, because this is from IMDb, and I thought it was something else other than Vega, but it could be that.
Yeah, could be. So so now they're all locked downtown, and we know where Ezekiel is pointing to because he's trying to get to the doctor. Remember, in that little hideout where they go to bring all the other people that get hurt and stuff that don't have money to go to the fancy hospital. But I don't know if that's in the lower half. I don't know if that's in their area because they don't really show a good map layout. So who knows if she's going to make it.
But
where did she get shot? Did they show where she got shot? In the body?
It was like the shoulder, I think. I'm gonna take a look.
Like, I get they don't want to dwell on that. They could have did because they were doing this nice little slow-mo emotional scene, where everything just got like, oh man, what just happened? It would have been great if we just would have heard a gunshot and then see her spin or something and drop on the floor. But they don't want to focus on it too much because it is a child getting shot, not a walker, but an actual child. Because even when we saw with the famous line that we always say at the end, it was like, look at the flowers with Carol and the girl. We didn't see the shot. We heard the shot. We know she put the crazy girl down, but they didn't show it. So you still
looked like the shoulder. And by the way, I'm looking at the scene right now. She was saving Maggie. Judith was.
Okay. So there you go. Well, that again connects to when she was talking to Carol about her brother, and she's like, "Did he die saving him?" Yeah, he died saving us. Yeah, he did. Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So she's gonna die. I'm telling you, she's not gonna be. That's not gonna be like one of those instant deaths. I have a feeling that this is going to be a sad one, and it's going to be one of those where they're trying to treat her, and it's going to be give and go. We're not sure, and then it's going to happen. It reminds me also. I don't know if they're going to do this, but it was very impactful. It was one of the final episodes of the comic, and Andrea made it all the way through. She died in like season 2 on the show, but in the comic, she married Rick, and they were having happy old go lucky life. She got bit, and it was slow. It was a slow turn to the point that Rick was losing his mind, and he didn't know how he was going to live without her. So he laid in the bed. Well, before I get there, anyway, she was there in bed, and everybody came to pay tribute. All the cats. I mean, characters that we haven't seen in a while that were from other areas started showing up to say their goodbyes because they knew this was it for her. And she had a little moment to which each one of them, even Negan was involved, everybody. And it was sad. It was sad. That whole issue was very sad. And I can see that happening here where everyone starts coming, and then eventually we see the parents show up, and then they have a conversation and then start talking about things. Man, I mean, I'm thinking crazy now, thinking real crazy. It would be so nuts. But if we see the mother, her birth mother, show up, the actress, if I forgot her name, but she was also in Prison Break, remember? If she can show up on this as like, a spirit, sort of like what they had with John Berthal when he would pop up through like flashback. If they had the mom pop up, I'd blow my mind. I'm like, this is perfect, because then that would be the perfect send off. Like she already said dad. Right. You could refer to she's thinking of her father or looking at just Daryl as you're my father. But if the mother comes and it's like taking her away, like it's done. Say goodbye to this. We're out of here.
So you think she is going to die?
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Vickers. Vickers.
We'll see.
Vickers. See, I knew it was something like that. So there you go, Vickers. So it sounded like Victor. The way he was saying it, that doesn't flow naturally. Vickers. I would think.
You know where they got that from? That's a homage to Resident Evil, right? Because one of those cops' names was Vickers, the ones that got killed in Resident Evil 2, the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
Well, also the main villain in Fear the Walking Dead, Victor Strand. So it's got.
Yep.
So there was all of that, but I think that right there, that issue, that was a big issue, very impactful, very sad, and I could see something like that happening here if they can't save her. That it's not like, oh, she's just dead as a turnaround. No, this is going to be.
I mean, well, that sounds very interesting. I, however, don't think that she is going to die. I mean, I feel like, well, let me just say this. I laughed when, after she got shot, Daryl's like, hey, wake up. Daryl, she just got shot.
I don't know. Yeah, that was the worst one.
That was ridiculous.
What does wake up? What does that mean? Wake up? Like, did she get knocked out? Or whatever. I mean, her eyes were open.
Yeah. I mean, I have no idea, but the fact that she said that dad line, I think it would have been more impactful for you to think that she wasn't going to make it if there was no response at all. But the fact that there was a response makes me feel she is still alive. She is still conscious, but we'll see what happens in the finale.
Yeah. We'll see. Oh man, people. So I don't know. Go ahead, leave your comments over on YouTube or on iTunes or YouTube. I think probably preferably, because that way we all see it and we can jump in on it. What do you think? Is Judith going to die in this last episode? That's the question. I say yes. I think Rich and definitely Carlos say no. Not going to happen. But I have a feeling this is it. This would be the talking point. If this happens, people that have not bothered watching this show, at least for the final season, will then go and look through their DVR and see all the episodes that are still being recorded and start watching to see how this happened. I know it was a big deal when Carl, but as I mentioned in the last episode, a lot of the big impactful deaths that happened on the show were due to outside of the show issues. And there was like contract disputes and other things. People wanted to leave the show and like, all right, just kill me. I got other projects. But this is a difference. And I think the connection I have, the main reason why, besides that it's impactful and it'll cause a talking point, it's just she doesn't fit in the structure for the spinoffs, at least from what we know. With Daryl going off to Europe, doing that whole thing, I don't see him bringing her along. With Maggie going off with Negan to do that other spinoff. Where's Herschel in all of this? Maybe he also dies, but where he stays with Aaron. If you do that, if Aaron still survives, someone has to watch these kids, right? Maybe Carol decides to play that role. I don't think
Jerry's wife is pretty much in charge of most of them.
That's the reason why I thought they were all with her. When they decided to go with the Commonwealth.
They never showed Judith getting recovered, did they? Remember, Judith was missing along with all the other kids, but did we ever see Judith like them actually saving Judith?
They said that she and the last, remember when they talked to Judith when they found him at the work camp when they all divided, Rosita was asking, and she's like, no, the baby, they even asked RJ, and he was like, no, Coco wasn't with us. So Coco, Coco, we don't know. So but
no, he's talking about Judith.
Judith was there. She was with.
I never saw her. We never saw her.
Yeah. I'm 100% with you, Carlos. I would need to go back and see that because it felt like that they just showed up at the beginning of this episode, and that was how you knew that they was exactly.
I thought she was with RJ, and that Coco was the only kid missing.
Judith and RJ were never shown. They were never mentioned that they were recovered. That's why last episode I mentioned, why did they make such a big fuss about just Coco? Why didn't Daryl go up in arms and say, where the hell is Judith? Because she was never anywhere to be found until, like Rich mentioned at the beginning of this episode, where she showed up, just showing up with a group. And I was like, oh, well, I guess they found her. So she just...
And also, for the animal lovers out there, where the hell is Dog at? Because didn't I make the comment last week? Dog is probably watching the kids. Well, he wasn't there.
Contractual agreements, he's
Yeah,
probably
he's doing a TV show or something. Yeah, no. Well, I mean, and that was one little part that they had a very small part with Rosita talking with Father Gabriel and saying about they were going to go and find Coco. Like, okay, where is Coco? We don't know, because if we know where all the kids are, we know where everyone is. Herschel's there and RJ, and that was the other one. They talked to Herschel also, and Herschel said he didn't know. He wasn't with Coco. Don't know. This little baby, it seems like that's the only one that's separate from the group. Now, granted, she's the only little baby in the group, right? I don't think anyone else has someone that small, so maybe they felt there was no need to travel with that child. So I wouldn't be surprised if the baby is still at the Commonwealth. Maybe somebody there has the baby. They was like, there's no reason to why are you going to bring the baby to a work camp? Right? There's no point.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So that's it, people. This was it. This was season 11, episode 23, Family. And it's coming to an end, man. This is one more episode. I'm not sure they're going to stick the landing. There's a lot of questions. And from what I understand, this is just going to be a standard hour episode. This isn't going to be like a supersize. Or remember back in the day when he used to do those 90-minute episodes?
Yep.
That would have been nice. Would have been nice. But
they should have did that.
Yeah,
they should have did that.
Or go one up and go old school when they used to end these episodes and make the last episode like a mini movie. Do something like that. But no, doesn't look like it's happening. I'm starting to think that this whole Rick and Michonne thing, if it does happen, is going to be a womp womp, because I don't see where they fit jumping in now. How do you even introduce them?
I agree. I don't see that either. What I do see is that you said this is going to be like a 40-minute episode, 45, whatever. Probably an episode, 35 minutes in, this is when Milton will get killed, and then they'll have a time jump. And then for the remaining 10 minutes, you see, and this is where our characters are at now. That's probably what they're going to do.
So, you're right. Couldn't do the time jump. I could definitely see the time jump.
Well, there is going to be a time jump. It's going to be the time jump of when Judith wakes up from her small coma, and it's going to be like maybe a couple of weeks or a month after everything goes down.
Man, you know how upset I would be if next episode starts and it already says like 6 years later, and they're already living their life and just showing flashbacks of sort of some of the stuff that happened that took place. Leading to where
are you gonna be since you're stating that Judith is gonna die, are you gonna be pissed that this episode will start like every other episode of this part of the season where Judith narrating is like, and today, well, the thing that happened is if you trust people, they love you.
No. You know what?
Yes.
You know who has to narrate? Rick has to narrate. This episode has to start off with the narration of Rick and of him making his return back, talking about all the things that happened in his life, this and this and that. That'd be great. If
that I agree, that needs to happen. I felt like this was the last episode with Judith doing the narration because of how it started.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
There is a wild card that could happen in the finale. Rick comes back, makes his triumphant return. At the end, goes to Judith. She wakes up from the coma. It's all white. The room is white, clear whites. Michonne and Rick are looking down at Judith. And Rick says, "Nah, I'm out. She looks like Shane." Dun, dun.
Oh, damn, right? That's Shane's kid. That was never my kid. Carl is my son.
Carl was legitimate. Carl.
Exactly. There you go.
RJ is legitimate.
RJ's his kid. Yeah. Yep. Either that or we get real crazy and a Jeep shows up and it's all a World Beyond kids. And they're like, come on, Judith, we're going on an adventure. Jump on in the back. Let's go. You don't need to be with these old fogies anymore. Oh, man. So there goes that, people. Thanks again for listening over on iTunes, Spotify, and of course YouTube. Check us out over at the Koalition with a K, koalition.com. We got all kinds of stuff there, interviews and reviews of other products and stuff. So thanks again, and we will be back next week. Well, I should say no, the week after next week, because next week this episode airs. So 2 weeks, we'll be back for the final. So how do you want to do this then? Because it's all gonna air live. So right after it airs, we watch it and then we jump on. This is it.
Well, it is Sunday night,
and
that's throwdown time.
Yeah,
have to play it by air and see. Yeah,
that is true. All right, people.
So maybe if AMC Plus decides to release it earlier, like maybe it releases the same day, but it releases in the morning or something like that. That would be pretty good.
That'd be interesting if they did that. Well, have they done that before? No. Oh, well, they had that screw up. They had the screw up before where it just wasn't posting. Well, remember that was like a few episodes back.
Yeah,
where
it was like the second episode.
Yeah, it didn't air, and they said they had some technical difficulty. Oh, whatever bullshit. All right, peoples, we'll be back. You'll see it on the feeds. All right, laters. Peace. And look at the flowers, Judith. It's your time, Judith.
Deuces.